Mubarak for you, it's my prayer. Mubarak for you, it's my prayer. May you keep ascending success, stay success.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulullah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nurallah. We're going to begin by giving you a blessing of reciting Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam is reported to have said that the closest to me amongst the people on the day of judgment will be the one who recites salat upon me the most. Allahu Akbar. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Viewers of the channel, we've said it many times before. As you see that at the beginning of virtually every program, we give you a blessing of reciting Durud Pak. And the reason for this is so that we encourage you all to become habitual in reciting Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala wasallam. And the blessings are there so that you learn them, pass them on to others, so that other people can become habitual as well. And who knows that one extra Durud Pak that you recite today might make all the difference on the day of judgment. Viewers of Madani Channel, as we know, Islam teaches its followers to adopt softness, kindness, gentleness, be humble to each other. It teaches us how to walk, how to talk, how to eat, how to drink, and how to sleep as well. But it also gives us guidance and teaches us who we should associate with and who we should not associate with as well. For example, Islam teaches us to befriend and associate with those who remind us of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and look to those whose speech creates a worry for the hereafter and the actions. And it encourages us to stay away from those people that do not have that in the conversation, that they do not encourage you to come closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla. And inshallah Azza wa Jalla, in today's Sunnah inspired Bayan, we're going to learn a little bit more about the importance of having a good company, viewers of Madani Channel. It is stated that Amir al-Sunnat, Allama Maulana Muhammad Ilyas Attar Qadri, may Allah Azza wa Jalla keep his shadow upon us. He wrote a book called Neki Ki Dawat, Call to Righteousness. And on page 290 of that book, he writes that a strange odor began to be smelt in the area of Punjab. After much searching, the locals found that the source of the bad odor was coming from a particular house that was closed. Consequently, they called the police and said that there's a horrible smell coming from this house. And when the police broke the door and went into the house, they found that there was a rotting body. A rotting body was there, and insects were climbing all over the body. It'd been there for some time, and as a result of that, the smell had come out of the house. And when people saw the state of the rotting body, that insects were there, it is said that some people, immediately were unconscious out of fear of what they had seen. Amir al-Sunnah then goes on to state that after some investigation, they found out that this young man had come to that locality to work. He didn't have any family with him, and he'd rented that house, and he was on his own. And what had happened was he got into a crowd of gamblers, and he started gambling. And one day he won a lot of money. Basically, he won all the money of all the people that were gambling. He won all of their money. Now, the people that were gambling, they were not happy that he had taken all their money from him. So they went into his house, and they tied a rope around his neck and electrocuted him to death and took all of the money. They left his body as it was. They left it unshrouded, and they did not bury the body. And subsequently, what happened was we saw that the body rotted and the smell came out of the house. Viewers of Madani Channel, that's just one example. That's just one example of what can happen if you have a bad company, if you associate with those people. And in that particular example, we were talking about gambling as well. And sometimes these evil friends that you think are your friends, I think that's the problem, viewers of Madani Channel. We do not know what a friend really is. And if we can understand what a friend really is, then inshallah we can make decisions going forward. A friend, viewers of Madani Channel, is someone, like I said earlier on, is someone that when you see that person, it reminds me of what you should be doing. It reminds you of what you should not be doing. It reminds me to get closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. Gosh, that we have them friends that when you see them people, you look at me and think, you know what? I need to go to the masjid now. He's reminded me that I need to remind myself 5 times a day. He's reminded me that I need to adopt the Sunnah and follow the Sunnah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Them are the friends that we have. Now, if you just pause for a moment and think to yourself that who are your friends? What do they remind you of? Did they remind you of the fear of Allah Azza wa Jal? Do they remind you to read your namaz 5 times a day? Do they remind you to earn an halal income? If they do, then marhaba, excellent. But if we are honest with ourselves, in the majority of the cases, that is not true as well. In this particular example that we gave, we also mentioned the detrimental effects of gambling in specifically. It is stated in Tafsir Siratul Jinan, page 24 of volume 3. Mufti Sahib writes that gambling creates hatred, animosity and enmity amongst gamblers. And sometimes this leads to murder and bloodshed. And as we can see in this example, it led to murder and bloodshed. Gambling causes the wealthy individual to become poor in an instant. The prosperous home falls into destruction. A well-off individual becomes needy of food and drink. His respect in society comes to an end, and he has no value or honor left in the society. It also goes on to state that in the greed of profit, the gambler becomes compelled to take out loans, and sometimes even loans that have interest on them. And when he cannot repay his debt, or he cannot take out a loan, then he becomes involved in thieving, burglary and robbery as well. Unfortunately, the gambler becomes surrounded by the calamities from all directions, so that eventually he ends up committing suicide as well. And this gambling, if we just talk about gambling in one instance, you know, on Madani Channel, we talk many times about drugs and the effects of intoxications and how drugs can affect you. Gambling, my viewers of Madani Channel, is also a drug. You can get hooked on gambling. Because what happens is you've lost a small amount. You've lost 50p, you've lost £1, and you think, you know what, I'll put another £1 in, then I can get that £1 back. Now you've lost £2. So now I have to put £2 in to get that £2 back. You know what, I've only lost £4. I'll put another 4 in to get that. And so what happens is that ball gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you've gone to a point where you think to yourself, you know what, I have to gamble, otherwise I'm in loss. And what happens is, ultimately, you are in loss. And I have met people of the past years, there was one person, Alhamdulillah, he rectified himself. But after he rectified himself, he told me his story. And he said to me that even whilst he was rectifying himself, even when he was trying not to gamble, he used to drive a taxi, and he said that he used to go into Manchester city centre, and I'd be driving my car, waiting for passengers to come up. And he said to me that the car used to go towards the casino. Now, obviously, the car didn't go towards the casino, but he said to me, there was something in me that compelled me, that almost forced me to take the car towards the casino. I'd end up driving towards the casino. I'd be driving past the casino, and automatically the car would go to the right, and I'd park up in front of the casino, and I'd go in. And he told me that as a result of gambling, I lost everything, even down to the carpet in my house. I lost my house. I lost everything as a result of gambling. And what happens is, when you get to that state, then as the example is mentioned in Tafsir Siratul Jinan, that you start committing all sorts of crimes because you've been involved in this, and now you want to get out of it. And to get out of it, there's no easy route. You know, in the same way that there's no easy way to become rich overnight, yeah? So what happens is, when people are in these dire straits, they want to find ways out. And they'll start robbing people. They'll start cheating people. They'll start swindling people. So then you got the one that is the sin of gambling. But then you put other sins on top of it to try and get yourself out of that. But what happens is you get yourself into more and more and more destruction, and it can get to the point where either, it can get to the two extremes of this, that you can get to the extreme where you either kill someone to get yourself out of debt, or you'll kill yourself. And I don't have to tell you this, there are many examples of when this has happened, where people have seen themselves in debt, and they're gambling even more to get themselves out of debt, and what happens is they come to the point where they commit suicide. Viewers of Madani Channel, it has been stated that your company has an effect on you. And what can be said about the fortunate one, the lucky person who acquires a good company, viewers of Madani Channel? And through the blessings of having a good company, he begins to adopt good habits, and he gives a deliverance from bad habits. He stays away from bad habits. So the people that you are with can have an impact on you. If you are with good people and they have good habits, then automatically you will start to have good habits. If you are people that are performing good habits, then those bad habits that were within you, you'll stop performing them. And that will have a change within you, and you'll see it. However, if a person adopts a bad company, then he needs to realize that this is the beginning of his ruin. He may think to himself that, no, I'm not bothered. He's not going to affect me. Yeah, that person that's gambling, he's not going to affect me. That person that's taking crack cocaine, he's not going to affect me. That person that's a regular robber is not going to affect me. That person that commits adultery is not going to affect me. No, you won't say this. And you may even say, look, I'm mature, I'm grown up, I've got kids. But the effect of that company, sooner or later, it will have an effect on you. His mindset of your company will start to affect you. Those things, initially, you will not commit adultery. Initially, you won't gamble. Initially, you won't touch drugs. But what will happen is your mindset will start to change. You'll start to think to yourself, well, what's wrong with it? It's all right, isn't it? He's gambling, seems to be all right. You don't know what's going on behind the scene. He's drinking alcohol, seems okay. He's committing adultery, seems okay. And slowly, the trick of shaitan will start working on you. And you'll start accepting this as being right. You'll start accepting those sins as being right because of the company that you keep, because he thinks it's right. And if you ever ask him, well, do you ever feel wrong about drinking alcohol? No, I don't feel wrong. I feel all right. Actually, I feel good. I wake up in the morning, I have a bit of a headache, a bit of a hangover. Yeah, I don't know what I did last night, but I feel okay. What about gambling? Well, sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. What about adultery? Well, I enjoy it. So all of a sudden you're going to start thinking, look, this is okay. So that is the first step. This is the first attack of shaitan, the acceptance. And once you accept something, then the next step is obviously to commit that crime as well, to commit that sin as well. And so this is what can happen when you have a bad company. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Sayyidina Hazrat Umar Farooq-e-Azam, radiyallahu ta'ala states, do not involve in any such thing which does not benefit you. What a huge statement. Do not get involved in any such thing which does not benefit you. And keep away from the enemy and save yourself from friends, except for when he is trustworthy, for there is none equal to the trustworthy one. And do not be with the sinner, for he will teach you sins, as I mentioned early on. And do not mention secrets before him, and seek counsel in your affairs from those who fear Allah Azza wa Jalla. Seek counsel with us. Sit with those people who fear Allah Azza wa Jalla, because sitting with those people will generate a fear inside you as well. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Sayyidina Hazrat Ali radiyallahu ta'ala stated, do not befriend an open sinner, for he will embellish his action and present it to you, and he will desire for you to become like him as well, and he will display his worst quality as a good one. Him visiting you is a defect and a point of shame. Do not befriend a liar either, for socializing with him will not benefit you. He will speak about you to others and speak about others to you. And if you speak the truth, even then he will not speak the truth. So again, if you're sitting with a company of people and they are backbiting, they are lying, they're talking about all the scandals, then sooner or later you'll get caught up in it and you'll start backbiting as well. He's gossiping, he's backbiting, and I'm sitting here quietly. Because I've got nothing to say, because the conversation's about backbiting, the conversation's about gossiping, I've got nothing to say. It's very hard, isn't it? It's very hard to remain silent in the company of these sort of people. And so automatically what will happen is you start thinking. You start thinking of a good story. You start thinking of some gossip you've heard. Because you want to be part of the conversation now. You don't want to be the silent one in the room, so you'll think up of something. You might even lie. You might even tell a lie by the story. You'll tell a story and it'll be a complete lie. Just to be part of the crowd. Just to be part of these so-called friends. You'll end up committing the sin of lying, backbiting and gossiping as well. Just to be part of the crowd. And why does that happen? It's because you're part of that crowd. That crowd that affects you, that crowd that makes you change. You're part of that crowd, and that crowd will cause you to do this. Sayyidina Jafar bin Sulaiman rahmatullahi ta'ala states, he said, I saw a dog. Listen to this, viewers on the channel. I saw a dog following Sayyidina Malik bin Dinar rahmatullahi ta'ala. So I said to him, oh Abu Yahya, such a thing with you. Yeah? A dog is walking with you. Yeah? And he replied, that this dog is better than an evil companion. Allahu Akbar. And from this views of the channel, we hear how detrimental a bad friend can be, for not only for one's dunya, but also for one's hereafter as well. Because in this dunya, you'll end up committing all of these sins. And if you're committing these sins and people become to know about it, and they will, eventually they will. When you lose your house through gambling, when you start being known as a known liar, when you start being known as a known alcoholic, when you've been known as an adulterer, when you've been known as a person that commits all these things, do you think you have any status in this dunya? Do you think people will respect you? Yes, they might respect you out of fear, but they don't really respect you. So you have no respect in this dunya. Then ask yourself, what will happen in the hereafter? Will them friends be with you? Them same friends that taught you all of these sins, will they be with you? No, they won't. Them same friends, if you die before they do, if you're involved in drugs, if you're involved in any sort of crime, and as a result of that something happens to you, yes, they'll turn up at the namaz janazah, but they won't go to the graveyard with you. They won't visit you every Friday and do Fatiha for you. They won't pray for you. Why? Because they won't know how to. And what will happen is when it's your time of namaz janazah, they'll go to the back. They'll be there at the back. And they'll be planning what they're going to be doing later on. They just want to get this over with. You're gone, your history, you're finished. And you have given up your life for these people? I remember seeing a post of Dawat Islami very recently, in which it said that people nowadays are willing to rob people for the sake of their friends, but they're not even willing to go to the shop for the sake of their mother. The mother asked them to go to the shop to get something, they're not willing to do it. But the friends say, rob this person, beat this person up, do this, do that. They'll do all of them things for them so-called friends. What kind of friends are they, viewers of Madani Channel? How are they helping you? Yes, you might have a little bit of pleasure, you might feel a little bit of happiness, but how long does that last? And so we see from this, viewers of Madani Channel, that bad company can have a destruction not only in our dunya but in the hereafter as well. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he talked about this, he said, avoid a bad companion, for he is part of hell. He is part of hell. Love for him will not benefit you, and he will not fulfill his promise to you. A person that you know cheats other people, lies with other people, do you think he's going to be honest with you? Do you think that he will not treat you the same way as he treats all the other people? You might be with him, and he'll cheat someone in front of you, cheat his friend in front of you, and then afterwards he'll laugh with you and think, look what I did. Tomorrow he'll do it with you. You know that he's lying to his so-called friend in front of you. Tomorrow he'll lie to you as well. It will happen. In another hadith, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, avoid an evil companion, for you will be recognized through him. And we see that. If you associate yourself with bad people, then you'll be known as a bad person. And those fortunate people, viewers of Madani Channel, that sit with the scholars, even if they do not go and study Dars Nizami, they're sitting with the scholars. Yeah? Then they become known as those people who sit with the scholars. They become associated with the pious people. Even though that person has never done one lesson of Dars Nizami, but people start to respect that person. Why? Because he's sitting with the scholars. But if you're sitting with those people who commit all these sins, do you think you're going to get respect? Do you think your status will be good? It is stated, listen to this, viewers of the a very important of these. Arrival of the morning for you should be in such a state that you are either, and listen, you are either a scholar, you're either a student of knowledge, or you're the one that listens to scholars, or the one who loves the scholars. And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not be the fifth, otherwise you will be destroyed. So you need to be one of four, basically. You either need to be a scholar, you need to be a student of knowledge, you either need to be one who listens to the scholars, or the one who at least loves the scholars. How can you love a scholar and sit in the company of thieves? How can you be a student of knowledge and go to the casino? How can you be a student of knowledge and commit all these other crimes? You can't. You have to change your company. You have to change the people you mix with. In another hadith, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, the similitude of good and evil companion is like the one who handles musk and the blacksmith's bellows. The owner of musk will give you some musk, or you will buy from it, and if not, that fragrance will come to you. Now, if you've been in a shop where they're selling musk, then that musk will come onto you and you'll feel part of it. But if you go to the handler of the blacksmith's bellow, it will either burn your clothes, or you will get a foul odor from it, or the black dust will cover over your clothes as well. I remember as a young student, I worked in a factory that used to be a machinery factory. And it had these CNC machines, these big machines that were cutting metal, and they used to use oil coolants. And because I was working there, the oil used to actually get all over my body and all over the skin. You feel it on you. Just because I was there. I wasn't touching the oil. I wasn't swimming in the oil. But what happened was it would actually come over you. So wherever you are, it has an effect on you. Same way, if you're in that blacksmith's place, then that will affect you. If you're in a place where you got a beautiful smell, it will affect you. Hakim al-Ummat, Mufti Ahmad Yar Khan Naimi Rahmatullah Ta'ala says, with regards to that hadith, he said, how pure is the example by means of which it is explained that the company of bad people can never benefit and the company of good people can never cause any harm. One who will not receive musk, one will not receive musk from a blacksmith, rather only heat and smoke. And one will neither receive heat nor smoke from musk owner, rather he will only receive musk or fragrance. The Mufti Sahabi goes on to say, he says that the owner of musk will give you some musk, or you will buy from it, and if not, the fragrance will emanate on you. This is the least benefit that has been mentioned. Buying musk or receiving it free of charge is a great blessing which will always continue to give you benefit. And only receiving fragrance is the least benefit. Remember, Abu Jahl and other enemies of the Prophet did not even enter the presence of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Presence is only achieved through love there. The Honorable Mufti states the following in explanation of the portion of the hadith where it is stated, whilst the handler of the blacksmith's bellow will either burn your clothes or you will get a foul odor from it. He says the meaning of this statement is that you should save yourself from bad company as such as possible, for it destroys one's own religion and dunya. Adopt good company, for it controls and balances one's world and the hereafter. The company of a snake takes one's life. The company of a bad friend destroys one's faith. Allahu Akbar. And this is true, viewers of my channel. So many examples we can give where people they've tried to rectify themselves. But when they've tried to rectify themselves, the biggest obstacle in rectification is the company that they keep. It's the company that they keep. And just to give you a simple example of how your company can affect you, and I've mentioned this before on Madani Channel, that if you are, playing any sport or any activity, and you read your namaz, you're a person who reads your namaz 5 times a day, but your friends, or your so-called friends I will call them, do not. The time comes for namaz. Whatever activity you're doing, you say, can we stop for 5-10 minutes? I need to go to the masjid. I want to read my namaz. Do you think that your company of friends that have never seen the masjid door, never read the namaz in their life, will not say something to you? Yes, they will. Brother, what are you doing? You can read your namaz a little bit. Why are you reading your namaz anyway? What? Look at it. What kind of person? You become a Mulvi or something. You become a Sufi or something. Why are you reading your namaz? And if you have to read it, can't you read it later? You read your namaz 5 times a day. Can't you miss one namaz? We're your friends. Come on. We've known you since we were kids, and you're not willing to miss one namaz for us. What kind of friend are you? You tell me what will happen. Will that pressure not affect you? But then let's turn it to the other way. You're in a company of people that read the namaz 5 times a day. You don't. The time for namaz comes. They stop the activity. They walk towards the masjid. They ask you, are you coming with us as well? And you start making excuses. Oh, I've got a few phone calls to meet. I've got a few people to meet. I've got this to do. I've got that. I'll quickly go and get that done. I'll meet you afterwards. You make that excuse once. You make that excuse twice, 3 times. Then you think to yourself, you know what? Got nothing else better to do. I might as well read the namaz with them as well. Instead of standing out here in the rain or sitting in the car, I might as well go and read my namaz. So what happens is you start reading your namaz. And when you start reading your namaz with your friends, then that will have an impact on you. That will have a change in you, and you will start reading your namaz. And this changes you, viewers of my channel. And you need to be aware of it. That even people that when they try to rectify themselves, if you think you are strong enough to rectify yourself and stay in bad company, it doesn't work. Practical example. I know of a brother. Alhamdulillah. He was in bad company. Yeah? But he rectified himself. He tried to sort himself out. He started to come to the masjid 5 times a day. Alhamdulillah. But then one of the Muballighs of Dawah Islami found out that he has some distant cousins. And these distant cousins, every night they sit together and they chat and they smoke drugs, they take drugs. Whatever the drug was, pot or whatever it was. So the Muballigh of Dawah Islami went to him and said, look brother, mashallah, you come to the masjid every day, but you're going to your friends' house, your cousins. I know they're your cousins, but you know what they're up to. Yeah? And if you're not careful, sooner or later you're going to do something similar, because it'll have an effect on you. Now that person, he turned around to the Muballigh of Dawah Islami and he said to him, do you think I'm stupid? I'm 35 years of age. I'm married with 2 kids. Do you think I'm going to go stupid like that? I'm not a kid anymore. I'm a mature, sensible adult. The Muballigh of Dawah Islami, what could he say to this? He went quiet. Sometime later, that same person, who'd been reading his namaz 5 times a day at the masjid, he comes home from work. He's had a horrible day at work. His boss has given him some grief. He comes home and the baby's crying. The wife's had a hard day. Yeah? So the baby's crying, his bachunki Ammi, his wife, is really upset. So they start an argument amongst themselves. He storms out of the house. He's just had a hard day at work. He comes home, his wife's in a temper as well, the kid's crying, and he leaves the house. Where does he go to get a bit of peace and quiet? He goes to his cousin's house. He sits there. And they see that he's got a lot of tension in his face. They can see his face is flared up, he's red. So they offer him something to calm him down. Yes. They offer him something to smoke to calm him down. He takes it because he's had enough today. He doesn't care today. He doesn't care what people think. He's had enough today. He's had a bad day. He takes it. Takes another. To cut the story short, viewers of Madani Channel, within 2 months that person became a heroin addict. Now this is not a story, this is a fact. This has happened, and I can give you many, many stories like this, where people have been affected by the people that they meet. I remember we were, Alhamdulillah, Dawat Islami here in the UK does work in the jails as well, and when we went into the jails once, we met somebody there, and he was there for quite a long time, and he said to me that, brother, I don't want to be here. I said, well, you're here for a reason. And he said it was my family. My cousins, they were involved in things, and I got involved with them, you know, because they're like family, aren't they? And I said, if you really want to rectify yourself, if you want to stay with your immediate family, i.e. your wife and your children, then you need to stay away from that family. You have to leave the town and go move to another town. Because, and he actually admitted, he said, if I get out of here and my family does something again, then automatically I will defend them and I will get in fights and I will get in squabbles and I will be back here. Why? Because of them. That affected him. So viewers of Madani Channel, this can affect us. And we need to be aware of this. And the problem is we think that we are stronger. We are stronger than this. It's not going to affect us. Do you think all these pious predecessors for the last 1400 years that have been guiding us and telling us about the effects of bad company, they do not know? Do we think that we know better than them? All of these incidents, all of these hadiths, all of these waqia that have been recorded and kept for us, why? Because there's a message there for us. There's a lesson there for us to learn from what people have said of the past. Sayyidina Allama Muhammad bin Ahmad Zahabi Rahmatullahi Ta'ala states, a man would sit in the company of alcoholics, and when the time of his death approached, he was reminded of his kalima, whereupon he recited, he said, drink and give me a drink also. And he died without reciting the kalima. And viewers of Madani Channel, this person would sit in the company of people that drink alcohol, not in the company. He wouldn't actually drink alcohol himself. It is also stated that a chess player was reminded of the kalima at the time of the death, and he said, you're king, you're king. And after saying this, he died. So viewers of Madani Channel, how you live your life, the company you keep will affect you in your last moments of your life. Will you die with Iman? Have you ever been worried about this? Are you ever concerned that I will not die with my Iman? The most precious gift that you have got, more wealthy than any bungalow, house, business, bank balance, gold, diamonds, platinum, whatever you want to say, more valuable than that. Have you ever realized how important it is to die with that? Have you ever done anything to protect that? Do you know what can happen at the time of death when the shaitan will try and entice you? And unless we live a life in such a way, then at that time, we run the risk of losing our Iman. Unfortunate are those that live a life of piety. And alhamdulillah, those people that try to live a life of piety, then alhamdulillah, insha'Allah as well, they'll die in a pious place as well. There was a certain individual here in this town here where I am now. And this is not a story from 1400 years ago, 1000 years ago, 600 years ago. This is a story from 5-10 years ago. He said to me, this person said to them, my father would recite the Holy Quran, the whole Quran in 1 week. Every week, he would read one Quran. Every single week, he would read one Quran. 52 Qurans in a year. How many do we read in a year? Do we even read one in a year? Majorities probably only read one in 10 years. 52 in a year, he said. When his time of death came, what was he doing? He was reading the Quran. He was reading the Quran. What are the chances of us dying in a pious place, in a pious position? From a statistical point of view, look at it from a mathematical point of view. That for 1 hour a week, for 15 minutes a week, we go to the masjid for Jummah. That's the only time we go to the masjid. 15 minutes a week, we go to the masjid. Statistically, you tell me, what is the chance of dying in the masjid? What is the chance of dying whilst you're reading your namaz, whilst you only read one namaz in a week? Very, very low chance. Statistically, you ask yourself, where am I the majority of the time? What sins am I committing the majority of the time? And that will tell you that statistically, there's a good chance you will die in that position as well. Allah. Viewers of Madani Channel, we ponder over, in this dunya we ponder over every step that we take. We think about, if I go down this path, then, You know, will I be successful? Will my business be successful? You know, and when your children are about to get an education and they're coming up to the GCSEs, the A-levels, the degrees, they take advice of people. You know, if I do this degree, what will happen? If I do them A-levels, what will happen? What are my opportunities if I do this? What are my opportunities? And you look and you take advice of people. Why do we never take advice of people when it comes to choosing our friends, choosing our company, choosing the path that we live on in our lives? Do we ever think about this? The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that a man is on the religion of his friend, and he should too look at to whom he befriends. You'll be following the same path as your friends. Who are your friends? I'm asking that question again and again and again, and if nothing comes out of this Ijtima today, I want you to ponder of this. Who are your friends? Who are the people that you associate with? What values do they have? And you may say, well, yeah, they're very wealthy, they've got a nice car, they've got a nice house, they lend me money whenever I need them, we can go and have a good party, this and that. But really, how does that benefit your hereafter? And how long will that friend last? You know, those people that invite you to the masjid, those people that invite you to the Madani Kafilas, those people that invite you to Ijtimas, you don't even consider them as friends. Whereas in fact, they are your true friends. They're not asking for your money, they're not looking at your wallet, they just want you to rectify yourself. Which, as it is stated, viewers of Madani Channel, this is the mission statement of Dawah Islam, that I must strive to rectify myself and rectify the people of the whole world, insha'Allah Azza wa Jal. Hakim al-Ummat, Mufti Ahmad Yar Khan Naimi Rahmatullah Ta'ala states the following. He said, before befriending someone, before making someone a friend, observing carefully whether he is obedient to Allah Azza wa Jal and obedient to the Messenger of Allah. Allahu Akbar. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, Surah Al-Tawbah, verse 119, and be with the truthful ones. It is stated, viewers of Madani Channel, that the Sufis, they say, the human nature has the quality of absorbing things. One will attain greed from the company of the greedy people. One will attain piety from the company of righteous people. If you're sitting with business people, business-minded people, and all they're talking about is how to make more money, how to make more money, how can we make more money, then you'll start thinking like that. Yeah, you know what? He's right. That's a good idea. I should adopt that idea. That's a good idea. I think I can modify it a little bit. And you'll start thinking like them. But if you're sitting with those people who fear Allah Azza wa Jal, those people who contemplate the hereafter, those people who think about what their path is going on, you will start thinking the same. You'll think, you know what, he's right. I commit that sin. You know, when you watch Madani Channel, on Madani Channel, what are we doing? We're talking about those sins that we commit. And the idea is that if you sit in the company of people like on Madani Channel, sit in the company of himself, when he talks about things, it'll make you think, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. I need to change. I need to sort myself out. So even being in the company of Madani Channel is beneficial to you because it makes you think, it makes you reflect, it tries to make you change. But if you're sitting in the company of people that are working, which is the best drugs to have the best high, which I can have the most fun with. If I take this drug, this will happen to me. Take that drug, and think, you know what? I won't try that one. I'll try that one. Yeah. Because that's what's in front of you. Them are the options in front of you. If you go to a shop where sins are being sold, you'll buy a sin. If you go to a shop where piety and good deeds are being sold, you'll buy a piety, you'll buy good deeds. The question is, which shop do you go to? Ask yourself, what is the shop that I go to? And so, viewers of Madani Channel, we should never blindly trust everyone in the matter of friendship. Nor should we sit in the company of those whose personalities are already soiled with many evils. If a person has committed many sins, we should stay away from them. Yes, if you're trying to rectify them, if you're trying to call them towards the path, that's one thing. But if you think that, you know, he's a good lad, that person, I need to sit with him. Because them people, when hard times fall upon those people who are involved in various evils, then those who are linked with them are sometimes affected by it too. You know, if you're associated with someone, then when they commit a sin or do something wrong, you'll be linked with them as well. If someone commits a crime, then who do they investigate? They investigate the people that surround that person. Who is his associates? Who is his friends? Maybe they're involved in it as well. It is stated, viewers on Madani Channel, in the book Neki Ki Dawat, Call to Righteousness, on page 381, that Mulana Arhum Rahmatullah Ta'ala states the following while it's explaining. He explains the harm of bad company. He said that a mouse met a frog on the bank of a river, and they both became friends. The mouse said, if I wish to meet you, how can I inform you, as you are in the depth of the water, where even my sound does not reach you? Eventually it was decided that a thread should be tied to the foot of the mouse, and the other end should be tied to the frog's foot. Thus the means of informing at the time of need will be resolved. Hence it was done. One day, a crow jumped on the mouse and flew away, grabbing him in his mouth. Due to him being tied to the thread, the frog also got pulled out of the water and flew in the air with the mouse. And the frog said, "This is punishment of befriending someone incompetent like a mouse." Thus we learn that associating with incompetent individuals and bad company brings about calamities. Viewers of the channel, we come to know that the company of foolish people can ruin us. In fact, ill effects can sometimes push others into the pit of destruction as well. Just as the company of alcoholics, gamblers, sinners lead to destruction, similarly associating with heretics, those that have foolish beliefs, bad beliefs, listening to their speeches, reading their books, listening to their audios, even though they may seem appealing. They may have an appealing voice. They may have an appealing voice, and you think, he speaks really good. Don't even listen to it. Don't even read them books, which you know that can misguide you. Stay away from them. The scholars' advisors, don't even listen to them books. Don't read them books. Don't listen to them speeches, because we can become affected by it. So again, those people that have corrupt beliefs, stay away from them as well. Watching their videos, stay away from it. Sharing their videos with others as well. Eating with them and establishing relation with them is also a deadly poison, viewers of the channel. And this affects your faith and leads you to severe ruin and loss in the world and the hereafter. So again, those people that may appear God-fearing, do they have the correct beliefs? Do they have the correct aqaid? If not, stay away from them as well, because you will be affected by them. You will be affected by them. It is written, viewers on the channel, on page 134 of Tafsir Siratul Janan, volume 3. Attending the gatherings of heretics and listening to their speeches is impermissible and haram. And it implies that one is presenting himself to the hearsay and misguidance by doing so. Regardless of whether the speeches are based upon Quran verses or Hadith, it is still not permissible to listen to them, even with the intention of deriving good for them. It is absolutely possible, in fact, it is usually the case that while explaining a Quranic verse or a Hadith, the heretic person, the misguided person, mixes some of his misguided opinions as well in it. And there is a strong risk. Rather, it has been witnessed that those things take root in the mind of the one listening to the speech, and they become firmly embedded in the heart. So again, we need to be very careful where we go to acquire our knowledge. If you go to a teacher and he's not the right teacher, he's not the correct teacher, then he will misguide you as well. So that has to be very, very careful. I would advise you, viewers of Madani Channel, to attach yourself to the whole of Dawah Islami. Watch Madani Channel. Madani Channel is in front of you. Madrasatul Madina is in front of you. Jamiatul Madina is in front of you. The education facilities are all there. And if you want to attach yourself to any of these facilities, I'm hoping there'll be a number at the bottom of the screen. You can contact us on that, and insha'Allah, wherever you are in the world, alhamdulillah, Dawah Islami is all around the world. Wherever you are in the world, insha'Allah, we will contact you and help you. And even if you are in the remotest places, the remotest outer highlands of Scotland, or in the jungle, wherever you may be, as long as you've got an internet connection, insha'Allah, our online services we can provide you as well. And so, viewers of the channel, regardless of whether a grown-up is involved in bad company or a young person, it will have an effect on people. As compared to grown-ups, bad company proves to be more harmful for younger people, because they do not have the ability to differentiate between good and bad at a young age. If they are not looked after from childhood, then when they grow up, they become rebellious, stubborn, heretic, non-salah offering, gamblers, alcoholics, and everything. And so as parents, it is our responsibility to know who our children's friends are, who they associate themselves with. An incident I've mentioned before on Madani Channel, my personal incident views on the channel. When I was young, my father would always ask me, and at the time I never understood it. He'd always ask me who my friends are. I'd come home and said, "Where have you been?" "Oh, I've been with my friends." "Who? What are the names?" And I'd tell them. And he realized that I had a certain group of friends. And one day he said to me, "Beta, next time you meet your friends, ask them who their father is." And although I was respectful to my father, I never said no to my father, but inside myself, I thought to myself, why is my dad asking me this question? They're my friends. Yeah? Why does he need to know who the parents are? What difference does it make? Yeah? So I met them and we were talking, and generally in the conversation, I said to them, "You know what, maybe my dad knows your dad. Yeah? What's your dad called? Maybe my dad knows you, because it's not a very big community here in this town." And they all gave their father's name, and I remembered them. So I came home, and next day I said, "Abaji, the other day you asked me about my friends." "Yeah. Such a friend is father's this, such a friend is father's such." And I mentioned all the names. My father listened. And he said to me, such and such friend that you have, whose father's name is this, I don't want you associating with him. I don't want you associating. From now today, you do not associate with him. Now I look back now, and I think to myself, I was lucky. I was lucky that I listened to my father. I was brought up such that I didn't rebel against my father, and I was very lucky that I listened to him. And I did feel it. I did feel it that, you know why, it's my friend, but I still listened to my father. Years later, that same friend who no longer I associated with, he ended up in jail, drug dealing. Because of the family background that he'd been in. His family had been involved in drug dealing and all of these things, and they'd been in and out of jail. And my father knew that, so he was protecting me. Do we know who our children's friends are? Do we know where they are going? Do we know what they are doing? You know, there used to be a time that we used to say to the people, oh, you know your computers, make sure that they're in the living room so you can see what your children are doing. You can see what your children are watching. Now they take these in their own rooms, they take their PC tablet. We haven't got a clue what they're watching or doing. Do we know who our children's friends are? Do we know what our children's friends are like? Do we ever go to our children's friends' houses to go meet their parents? Why do you do it? To find out who them people are, what the upbringing is. Are you not worried? You should be. Because they spend a lot of time with them friends. So you need to make sure that you have that. And a child views them with a child from a righteous household, from a person that is brought up in a good environment. Another thing I'm going to mention to you, viewers on the channel. Those children, and it's unfortunate this, but it's true. Those children that are brought up in a pious household, those children that are brought up in that household where they read the namaz 5 times a day, they adopt the sunnah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Unfortunately, a lot of them are lonely. Because generally the public around them, those people that go to the school with them, those people that go to college with them, those people that go to work with them, they don't read the namaz. They are not God-fearing. They are not people that follow the sunnah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If your daughter, you know, we give the mindset to our daughters to wear a headscarf, you'll find out that your daughter goes to the school and she'll be the only Muslim girl there that's wearing the headscarf. She'll feel out. So it is our duty to become even closer to our children, to become the friend of our children, to make them proud of who they are, to realize that you are doing right, beta, you are doing right, beti, you are doing the right path. It is not an easy path. So those children that are there, we need to support them even more. We need to love them even more. We need to provide extra facilities for them and support them even more, because it's not easy. Society doesn't want your children to be pious. Shaitan doesn't want your children to be pious. Shaitan will try everything to take your child off the path of piety. So you can do a certain amount, but you need to do as much as possible. And I remember someone saying, and he said to me this about nearly 25 years ago, but I'll never forget it. This is 25 years ago, when you can say that society was not as bad as it is today. 25 years ago, he said to me, in this society in the West, if a parent gives his children full time, full concentration, then his children have a chance. A chance. If his parents don't give the children full time and full concentration, then his children have no chance. No chance or a chance. Even then it's not guaranteed. But we need to play our part. And one of the best ways of protecting your children and bringing them in a good company is this environment of Dawah Islami. I would advise us all, viewers to please bring your children to the environment of Dawah Islami. Bring them so that they can associate themselves with like-minded pilgrims, like-minded children, and associate with them. If they come to the ijtima'as as a young child, your child may be only young. And you may think, well, it's too young to take them to no, bring them to the ijtima'. Bring them to the Sunnah-inspired gatherings so that they will meet other like-minded children. They will sit with other children that are reciting the naats. They will sit with other children that are doing the zikr. They will learn from the halkas that are there, the study circles that are learned from a young age. And these are the people, you make the friends for them. If you leave your children to go out into the world and say, find your own friends, then find out what will happen and look around you. You need to find them good friends for your children as well. Protect your children as well so that they are protected. Because this dunya, viewers on the channel, is nothing there for us. Our children are going to become misguided. And in this society today, they need as much of our support as possible. And we are living in a society where it's not easy. Yes, I agree with you. Bringing up children isn't easy. Bringing up isn't children, but bringing up children is not just, we give birth to them and we buy them the shoes and the clothes and we buy them the food and we give them the college education and we get them married and give them gold and we give them all the deposit on the house and that's my job done. No. The tarbiyat of your child is more important than any of that. That money comes and goes. but the upbringing of that child will stay with them forever. When you're in that dark and lonely grave and you've left your child £1 million, what benefit will that get to you? Yes, your child will be happy. Yeah, Dad left me £1 million. But even then, they're not happy. I remember the person that is the Nathwan that was with us today. We went to someone's house many years ago to say sorry to someone that had passed away. And the brother, his father had passed away, and the brother said, "Why are you sorry? My father only left me £63,000. Only £63,000. He wasn't sorry at the loss of his father. He was sorry at the fact that he only left him £63,000. In another instance, a doctor we know, he was talking with a specialist, and this specialist, he said, makes £150,000 a year salary. And he said that his mother was suffering from arthritis. And these two doctors, they were talking to each other. The doctor said to the other doctor that nowadays there's good cures for arthritis. There's good medicines that can protect people so that people don't have to suffer. And you know what he said? He said, "I just think that my mother, all she's doing is eating my inheritance. The quicker she dies, the quicker I can get the money." Is that how we brought up our children? That they only look at our bank balances, they look at what we've got? They don't look at thinking about us, caring about us, and then we wonder why society is as it is? It's because we've not given our time to our children. Things are around us. Open your eyes, viewers of the channel. We are burying our heads in the sand. We don't know do we not know what's happening? Do we not know what's happening to children? Do we not know what's happening to elders? Do we not know what's happening in the old people's homes? Do we not see this is happening all around us? You know, here in the UK, we've got another, inshallah, plan that we're going for. Inshallah, here, we're going to write letters to the care homes here in the UK. Because it has come to our knowledge that in the care homes, there are Muslims that have literally been dumped there. Yes, dumped. I'll use that word. They've literally been dumped there. And when they pass away, there's nobody there. And so Dawah Islam is taking it upon them to take them and prepare for their funeral and go and visit them whilst they're in their care home. Because there's no family, there's people giving up on them. Is this what we want for ourselves? Because if we don't do anything, then that might happen to me. That might happen to you. If we don't bring up our children, think about the company that they're looking at, that this is going to happen to us. This is a reality. I'm not telling you about any fantasy stories here. This is happening day in and day out. You may say, "Well, I'm okay. My children are good. Alhamdulillah, I hope they are good and I hope they stay good." But what guarantee have you got? What guarantee have you got that your children are protected from these ills of society that we mentioned? I'm quite old now. I've lived in this country. I was born in this country. I've seen it here. And I think to myself, and when I was young, it was bad. I think it was bad when I was young. What's it like now? When I was young, I remember there was a time where if there was someone in the school that said, "Oh, I know where you can get drugs," we knew he was just showing off to say how, how clever he, how big he was, that I know where to get drugs. He didn't really. Nowadays, they're openly being sold in the school. About 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, a 12-year-old Muslim girl, yes, 12-year-old Muslim girl got expelled from school for selling drugs. It's happening. Our daughters, during the lunch breaks, in schools and colleges, are going to abortion clinics. Yes, it's happening. Our youngsters are involved in buying and selling and taking drugs. Yes, it's happening. How much are you going to deny? For how long are we going to bury our heads in the sand and realize that these problems exist in our society, viewers of the channel? And the crux of all of this, the majority of the problem is two things. One, the company they keep, and two, the tarbiyat that we give to our children. Our sisters, it is so important for them. Just before I came here, I was reading an article that the scholars of the past, that by the time they were a young age of 7 or 8, they'd become Hafiz al-Quran. By the time of the early 20s, they become a scholar of the deen. And in many cases, we hear the stories of these pious people of the past. What would happen is the fathers had died at a young age. The fathers had maybe gone and jihad and traveled. And it was the mother that brought them up. But how did the mother make that child a Hafiz al-Quran? How did the mother make that child become a scholar of the deen? How? By knowing the knowledge themselves. So it's very important upon our sisters as well to acquire the knowledge of the deen, so that they can protect the children. Again, the sisters think that my job is to clean the house, cook, put nice clothes on the child, my job done. Father's job is to bring the money home, buy all the groceries, make a nice house, job done. My job's done. Who's going to bring up that child? Who's going to give that the tarbiyat of the child? That a child is like a stone. And the tarbiyat that you give is chiseling into that stone. You know, we give the example of a piece of paper. That a child is like a piece of paper, that you write on it and whatever's written on the paper becomes on that child. But that piece of paper, it can be ripped up, or a new piece of paper. But a stone, the child is like a stone, and you chisel into it. Once something's chiseled into it, it stays there. Here in the UK, if you look at old buildings, very, very old buildings, you'll see outside the building a nameplate of when the building was made. It was built in 1894, and it's written there, it's in the stone, it's chiseled into it, and that is still there. 150 years later, it's still there. In our children, what tarbiyat we give them as a child, it will remain from them. So what are we going to do about it, viewers of the channel? We need to make a change. We need to, first of all, understand that the problem exists. If we don't understand that there is a problem out there, then we're not going to try and do something about it. And that is the first problem. We bury our heads in the sand and we think, I'm okay, my children are okay. Many times we've said it on Madani Channel that if there's a fire next door and you don't do anything, you see a fire next door and you don't phone up the fire brigade to put out the fire, then that fire will come to your house. Why do you phone the fire brigade when the house is next door, when the fire's on the house next door? It's not on your house, is it yet? But you phone them up. Why do you contact the police when there's a lot of crime in your area because you want to protect your own house? But when it comes to the tarbiyat of your children, what is affecting them, what are you doing about it? So that's the first thing that we need to realize, that there is a problem. Second thing we need to realize is how are we going to tackle the problem? And it's the person who's going to tackle the problem is me and you. Not the Imam Sahib, not Qari Sahib, not Ustad Sahib, not his uncle, not his cousin, not his brother, not his mamu, not his chacha, me and you. It is your responsibility. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, save yourselves and your family from that fire whose fuel is stones and men. Save yourselves and your family, your responsibility. You will be questioned on the day of judgment. What did you do to save yourself and your family? Not just save yourself. What did you do? Dawat Islam is here to help you, viewers of the channel. Dawat Islam is here to empower you, give you the knowledge to protect your iman, to give you the knowledge to bring up your children in the right environment, give you the knowledge so that you can bring up your child in that environment and protect their iman. But you know there's a saying in English, you can take a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink it. I can tell you all day about the facilities that Dawat Islami provides, but unless you come and drink from this fountain of knowledge, then there's nothing more I can do. All I can do is try and make you thirsty. Try and make you realize how important it is to drink the fountain of knowledge. If you do not come forward, then I cannot force you. But I can humbly request you, visit my channel. Do something and make a change in your life. Make a change in your life to protect your iman and the iman of your children. I pray to Allah Azza wa Jalla, if I said anything wrong, may Allah Azza wa Jalla forgive me. And I pray to Allah Azza wa Jalla, first and foremost, Allah give me the ability to think about what I've said. You also the ability to think and reflect about what I've said. Not only think and reflect, but also make a change. I make an intention to make a change in my life for the better. You also make a change in your life for the better. And try and pass this message on to others as well. Ameen bijahin nabil ameen. Sallu ala al-habib. Sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
For you, smile.